public part of the hearing is closed, but we still have some business to attend to, and that is we need to decide whether or not we need to have another meeting following this, like say next week Tuesday, which would be the latest we'd be able to do it.
Tuesday's the selection.
I understand that,
And the school board is also.
and them too. So hey, we can join the crowd. Do we want to this evening agree to vote on what we have? I think it's really quick and has really given everybody an opportunity. You haven't even opened up your computer, you said, so I'm not sure how much you can look at this and say, I really know what's going on and I want to vote one way or the other. My thought is that we should be taking in whatever input we had from this evening to see if there's any adjustments we should be making. And then on Tuesday, vote for what that final draft is going to look like. If we put a may instead of a will, or if we choose to make any other changes, minor or major.
Is Tuesday, what, the last moment that we have?
The requirements we have is that we have some requirements for the timing. So our limits are that Wednesday, January 22nd is the last day to post and publish notice of final planning board public hearing. So if we're going to do that, that's the 22nd, that's next week, right? And to post that, we have to have the final, not the second public hearing is to present the final. It's not to present any changes. It's got to be the final draft of what we have, including numbering and all the other good notices that we have. Basically, the warrant as it would appear in a warrant article. So we've got some work to do between now and then. And it's got to be done.
Is Monday a possibility?
Monday's a holiday?
Yes.
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday. I'm not in town.
Unfortunately, Tuesday. Absenteeism.
We have Friday tomorrow night.
Well, we have tomorrow night. No, I'm not here tomorrow.
I'm a little puzzled. And, I gave Bill a call on, Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday. I'd just been to a real estate meeting. And some of those people there, and his name's Paul. He wrote me, he wrote me an email. And he's like the state guy, he coordinates with the state. And a conversation with him, and basically he said, well, I've looked at your ordinances, and he says, what's his name, our attorney, Peter, he's just doing all these references to these RSAs, which none of them apply to.
If you notice, we changed a lot.
I know, but that's
We've removed those out.
That's my complaint, Bill, because you didn't talk to me, and I came in here tonight.
Because I didn't have the data. We didn't have the data.
This has been changing up to.
We didn't have the data.
Literally a couple hours ago.
This morning is when the changes got made.
But I was sort of blindsided when I talked about the grandfather to these guys, and we've already taken that out. And the other thing, I look at
But the grandfather was never in.
it was never, the words were never used, but the concept was there. And I look at these, 16.3, I think that basically 2/3 of this is non-enforceable. I mean, we're saying put in an application, then you gotta go through the planning board, you gotta go to the selectmen, you gotta planning.
That's just a process.
Well, I think if they put in an application, quite frankly, that's it.
All it is, again, if we could do it like signing up for a dog license, we would do that.
But we're not going to tell people they can't do it.
We didn't say we're going to.
At the meeting when we discussed making sure that people weren't held up, it was because we expected a glut of inspection.
Right, but if you look through this, there's nothing that they have to do except file the application and pay $50. That's it.
That's right.
And so I don't know why we have this stuff in there that.
Because state law requires it.
Well,
Because there is no there, and you heard Jerry mention that there is a bill that's going forward that would allow us to do that. And
Right.
if we could do that, we would do it.
Maybe-
Maybe that will pass this year.
Well-
Maybe it will pass 5 years from now. Maybe it'll never pass.
I think there's a very good chance that it will pass. Very good chance from what I hear that it will pass.
And there are an awful lot of people in the industry who are saying, no, it will not. And there's an awful lot of lobbying against it. Okay?
Well, I don't know.
All right, so I mean, it depends on which perspective you take.
Well, I'm wondering whether we're spinning our
have.
wheels and whether we should see what happens with that until we come up with
And
some
so we're
stuff.
gonna wait another year?
See,
Wait 2 years or 3 years? Why don't we wait 5 years?
This is not cast in stone.
All right, well then let's
If
not
it-
take it as a, maybe we don't do it as a warrant article if it's not gonna be cast in stone.
No, what I'm saying is that we put it to the voters, and they vote it in, and
If they
then
vote.
state it, I'm saying, following the thought process. We put it to the voters, they vote it in, and then state law changes. Next town meeting, we can change it. That's
Well, I
what I mean
think-
by it's not cast in stone, is that zoning, this whole document is subject to change. And has been changed.
What I'm saying, Sarah, is that maybe we put this forward as a recommendation based on how, you know, what happens with the state. And that, I don't know, it's a little bit.
Either we do or we don't. We don't have choices here. We either do something and put it in as a warrant. No, this is what our reality is. I hear what you're saying, but we have two realities. We can either do nothing.
No, nobody's saying that.
No, well, let me say this. I'll say it again. We have choices. Do nothing and wait. Or create a warrant article that codifies what our expectation is based on current law. And what we have chosen as a board is to move forward and codify based on what we can do currently.
I think we ought to present it that way then, you know, based on where, you know, so make sure that they know that this isn't written in stone. Make sure that we're doing this.
All zoning ordinance.
No zoning ordinance is written in stone, and when state law changes, if we have to comply with state law, and if it makes it easier, why wouldn't we go with something that's easier? If I understand, Jerry, help me out. You understand what's going on there. Would the process be
I
more?
totally agree with your binary choice. I disagree with your statement that the board has recommended that you move on like this.
We have not voted on it, however.
I have never seen a vote
We
among the.
we have not had a vote on it. However, from a working basis, no one has said that we should stop. I'm asking, for example, right now, if I'm hearing Chris correctly, what he's offering now is the opportunity to say, we should stop this right now.
Well, no.
And that would be, well, no, I mean, that would be an opportunity. You can vote and say, no, I don't agree. I don't,
I just think that this is not written.
we haven't taken a vote. You're right.
I would, again, I apologize for butting it, but if you would take a poll, an informal poll, to see if you should move forward, because again, you're at the 11th hour, and you still don't have the final words. I could poll them right now. Not one member here has read the final words yet, including you. So why don't you take a poll to see how they feel?
I think Bill and I both have read the final words.
You're developing them tonight.
What?
I'm sorry,
What'd you say, Scott?
I said Bill and I have both read the last draft, if that's what you mean by the final words.
Well, this, I got the last draft here as well. I'm pretty sure it's the last draft, and I just,
with one exception. I think the line that says that they have to provide.
Sarah, have you read the last draft?
I've read the draft that was,
And this is in part why I think Bill is recommending that we don't vote tonight, that we vote on Tuesday.
I don't
so
have
that-
the current draft.
So that we
Because
have
I
time,
haven't
so everybody
looked
has
up on
time
computer
to
and
go
done.
through
I've been working.
what we've only gotten hours ago.
Yeah, I got this, what, three?
Yeah,
three or
that's what I'm saying.
That's-
We
that's
should-
when we-
That's why I'm suggesting meeting Tuesday
That's
and
fine.
giving folks, and that's what I said on the note when I sent it out.
I'd be glad to do that.
And can I make one other point? We're not putting this into law. The voters put this into law. Our job is when we see something facing the town in regards to zoning and land use, we see an issue, a real issue or a potential issue, our job is to present a reasonable and legal resolution to that issue. It's then up to the town to either accept that proposal and to accept any costs, potential
Like the people in this
risk,
room. I mean, that's the
any
sense
potential
of
risk
what's
of
going on.
cost. That's not our decision. Our
But do-
decision is simply to put
Scott,
forward something that people can
Do
decide
we,
on.
do we want to put something in front of the people that they vote into law that is not sustainable, that we could be sued for?
Well, I think what we have is sustainable. We can always be sued, and because it's short-term rental, no matter what we
There's
do.
no guarantee that
We
you
can
won't
be
be sued, whatever you do.
But in terms of reality, think about this. What we're doing, someone that's going to purchase a property to only short-term rent in the residential district where we're not allowing that, they might want to sue, but is it really cost-effective for someone to purchase a property and sue the town in the hopes that they're going to win and then be able to short-term rent? They're not going to do that.
Well, on the other hand, somebody that has a property to sell, and they've told somebody that this is could be a short-term rental property, and then the people say, well, prove it to me. I don't know, I'm just not,
The business
nobody really knows how this is gonna come out. And I think, Peter has backed off a lot of stuff that he originally said. I'm just not ready to vote tonight, I think.
Right, and that's why we're
That's why
not proposing that.
we're not proposing to vote tonight. Think on it. You can vote no. You don't have to vote recommend it, and we could all vote no and not do anything.
I want to have something like this out there, but I just want to be a little more secure that it's going to float.
Just to, again, I apologize for interrupting, but this is on Town Attorney Peter Mellion. I was personally involved in a lawsuit that I recommended strongly that the town not get involved in. Peter Mellion suggested that we do. It cost us $18,000, and we lost.
And I think, I don't know,
So just be careful what you.
I appreciate that. I think to the point, I think it leaves more level of uncertainty for homeowners not to have this in place. Because right now, as it was identified,
Yeah.
from an enforcement perspective, right now, anybody has a short-term rental is in violation of what we currently have for permitted use. I mean, that's, if I'm understanding that correctly, if we chose as a town to enforce that, I'm sure we'd probably be in more opportunities for lawsuits in that
Right.
respect to do that. But what this does, it provides everybody with a basis for moving forward.
A game plan.
Yeah, I mean,
Starting point.
and you heard the people who do short-term rentals, they're saying, yeah, we would like this. Actually, this protects them from another action that we could take. We say, no, we're going to ban them entirely. I mean, we could have done that, and yes, we'd have to be voted on, or we could, someone could sue the town perhaps for enforcement, failure to enforce. I mean, that hasn't happened yet.
Look at the market basket issue. I mean,
There's opportunity there that hasn't been seized upon.
I support your dilemma. I understand where you're going.
I don't like the idea of putting anything out there, and that's why we've pushed hard on Peter to the references, how we structure this, the whole thing about inspections, process.
Big improvement.
Now, if you had kept on in inspection issue, I would have read you the RSA that denies you the.
Yeah. So why do that? And we got input from.
Unfortunately, we had we should have had all of those issues taken care of before we. had
Before
this
we got
part.
here, yeah.
But it
That's,
is what it
that's
is.
just, it's
Yeah.
because the issues are so complex, and
Yeah,
I understand your dilemma.
yeah, unless you have the whole the whole book memorized, how you would know to look here to find something that tells you what
Peter
you
doesn't
can
have
and
it memorized, he
can't.
just
Right.
refers to the parts he's
I
looking at.
mean, quite frankly, Jay Feenan has been a huge resource for us in these last hours.
Who has?
The fellow who was commenting, Jay Feenan over on the side there. He provided us some of the information around some of the things that Jerry would otherwise probably have done. As, you know, saying, you know, here are the things you need to be concerned about, and these are the places that if you keep where you're going, you're gonna have an issue. And,
I think the 25 rentals was the biggest issue.
it is,
No,
and,
for the current ones. That's what they read. They read 25 rentals.
right, yep.
And that was, and I think that was because of the Armstrongs. Now, and that was really the only issue that came up, that wiggle room. I've been in the back of my mind trying to figure out how can we word it so that people in their situation would not be restricted, because they're being responsible owner. It's as if they are, you know, it's owner occupied, but they aren't there. They're on the way.
But you had said that because they're doing it today, they're not going to be bound by the 25.
Right.
Yeah, as long as Jackson
But,
doesn't
okay.
choose to pursue that, you know, pursue the line of it's already illegal and we should be enforcing something that's already legal.
Right.
I think long-term rental would also be captured in that, as long as well, short-term rental.
And there's enough body of law on rentals that if we chose to try to enforce,
No, I agree. I'm supportive of it. I
you know,
mean, the people that were short-term rental, when you said that,
yep,
they didn't have any problem with the rest of
right.
us.
And, no, and yet we had, and the flip side of that is we had somebody who's in the short-term rental business who was suggesting that we cap the number so that he can say, hey, I got an exclusive
Competition is
one.
gone.
You know, I can keep it,
I heard
so
that.
my property is more valuable than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be more valuable in some respects if they can do additional business that the next party cannot. And that, you know, that's kind of the nature of zoning and making regulation changes that somebody benefits. Christmas Farm Inn benefits from having been there for a couple 100 years or so, you know?
And to your point, Sarah, I mean, I agree that if there's a resident of the town, a resident of the valley, then the property is probably going to be managed better than if someone is living in Massachusetts and owns the property. And so you may not have the same problems that you do, but it's still, in terms of how it's being operated, it's still really a business. You know, it's being used as a single-room
it's-
hotel,
right.
and that's sort of the other side of it, is should we be allowing a business enterprise, a business operation to occur in the residential district? And in terms of disturbances, you know, if your neighbor has, you know, a lot of friends over for a big barbecue some evening and they play some music and they have a bonfire and it's that one night, it's not a big deal. If that's going on every single weekend because it's a short-term rental,
Yeah.
because then it does become a big deal for you as a neighbor. And so it doesn't have to be a disturbance in the sense of they're shooting fireworks off at 2 a.m. or they're, you know, they got a rock band playing, you know, in the backyard. They can be doing things in a very reasonable and responsible manner, but still disturb the neighbors, not the particular people on that day, but the fact that it's a short-term rental becomes disturbing to the renters, to the neighbors, because that sort of activity is going on perpetually.
And they don't live next to those neighbors and don't have to.
That's referred to as the quiet enjoyment of your property.
Yeah.
The number of days issue, I polled 4 locals who are involved in short-term rentals. They manage properties locally. They said 25 days is more than sufficient. Any number you pick is arbitrary. But from the people I spoke to, 25 days, they said most properties aren't rented 25 separate times.
Right.
Most properties are rented for weeks, not weekends.
Right.
Excuse me, Jared, 25 days or?
No, 25
rentals?
25
25 rentals.
Yeah,
25 rentals, yeah. I think Jerry misspoke on that.
Okay, rentals.
But you know, by allowing somebody, that's basically allowing a commercial business in a residential zone. Does that mean somebody can put a store up there too?
No,
I mean,
Well, and
it's a
that's,
commercial business.
there are two, you know, the conversation valley-wide, you hear, you know, what I've heard is, this isn't a business, it's residence. And you can follow that logic two different ways. You can say, okay, is any accommodation residence? And if so, then a hotel is simply a residence and may have to follow, you know, different codes because they have a certain number, you know, far more people. But in terms of, you know, being allowed to operate in a residential district, if any accommodation is simply residence, then we could not say no to a new hotel that wanted to set up in the residential district.
Oh, so they can.
So, no, that can't happen. I'm just saying that if that's how you think of short-term rental as just another form of residence, then overnight at a hotel is another form of residence, and that would have to apply, you know, we'd have to apply the same thing. The other thing you commonly hear is that it's a dwelling unit, and therefore it, you know, should be considered any use is in that residence because it's a dwelling unit, which, getting to your point, if you follow that train of logic, then ultimately any business that's in a dwelling unit should be allowed in the residential district. Again, that's not what we're looking to do. So, again, the needles that we're trying to thread here.
Which is why it's called a conditional use. And it says, yeah, we're gonna allow something on a conditioned basis. And is it perfect? No. I mean, again, our choices are to either do something or not do something. What do you want to do? You want to leave it the way it is and have it just the way it is?
And also, the fellow brought up tonight that the septic system up to a 4-bedroom is the same. It's not. Leach
Well, yeah,
fields are
yeah.
different. And if you put a garbage disposal in.
It might be the same tank, but it's a different, yeah.
Well, no, it wouldn't be the same.
It might, well,
Because if you have a garbage, for every garbage disposal, you have to add,
yeah.
I think it's 250 gallons
Right.
to your septic tank size.
Right.
So there's a lot
Yeah,
more
no,
involved.
and so there's a lot of uninformed folks out there.
Well, and the other thing is that, you know, you could say that a house that's in, you know, that's occupied all the time, that there's septic use all the time, short-term rental
Yeah.
has some level of non-occupancy. On the other hand, if that short-term rental is putting, you know, at least 2, or maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people in a bedroom, then it's making up for the time that it's not occupied because it's overloading when it is occupied.
And if you have a family with 6 kids in a 2-bedroom home, guess what? We're not regulating that at all right now.
And some of these places are cesspools.
And we're not trying to solve every problem.
No.
All we're trying to do is address short-term rentals. As I said at the outset, we're not trying to solve the world here. We're just trying to focus on.
We'll do that next week.
Yeah, you know,
One other question,
Speaking of next week,
and I think I've raised it
Yes.
before, but the woman that over here that talked about the insurance, that she has to go through that inspection, are we allowed to require them to give us a proof of their insurance?
No.
I don't believe we are. I don't believe we are.
But,
just like you don't have to have.
How many homes that have mortgages on them? Most homes do. And even if you don't have a mortgage, you're gonna have insurance.
Yeah.
Insurance has specifications with respect to
Rentals.
many things that you have to meet, much more stringent than what the town would do. And so if you have a insurance policy on your home, and I don't know how many people do not,
Right.
if you have a mortgage, you do. And they have much stricter criteria than what any town has.
Right, but an insurance company is not, they're not inspecting my home.
Sometimes they
Well,
do.
they
Yeah,
do,
they do.
well, they, yeah,
They
they,
might,
They do.
well, they don't come inside. They're
yes,
just-
they do.
Oh, yes, they do.
Oh, for sure, yes, they will come
I
in.
used to
They
do
have the
that.
right to, Scott.
Oh, for sure. And in fact, if you try to get that mortgage and you have a rental, they're gonna inspect it.
Right.
If you read your policy, they have the right to do it. Or they can deny you the policy.
Or they can deny, right? But you have to meet their
But
requirements.
the town can't, as far as I know,
Okay.
the town can't
Should be-
require.
We could squeal on them with their insurance company,
Oh,
but we can't.
the point really around that is, you know, if you have a home that you're renting and you don't have a policy that covers the rental,
You're in trouble.
guess what? I don't have my license on this, but I've been in the insurance industry for an awful long time. Bottom line is, they don't have to cover you.
No, I understand that, but no, she was saying there's a way of proving that.
No.
That's the question they ask you, by the way. Are you renting your home
Yes.
on the
Yeah.
policy? On your application.
Yes, it is,
Right.
yeah.
And then they'll give you a rider.
Yeah. And they'll charge you for it.
Yes, oh yeah.
And if you lie and you got a claim, they won't pay it.
Exactly so.
No, I-
So it's like, it's up, and, you know, if they're doing good business for themselves, they're not leaving themselves exposed.
If you misreport, and this is more just my curiosity, if you misreported that and you're not called on it for a period of time, at least like 7 years, can they still deny?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because if I do that with an activity that I'm involved in,
Mhm.
then after a certain period of time, they cannot, an insurance company cannot deny me.
That's right.
a claim.
There is a specified time.
Yeah. Well, that's in life insurance, but in homeowners, there is no
I don't
specified.
think I know like with me, because I'm a pilot, I had so many hours a year that I could fly that I was covered. If I was exceeding that, I had to have a separate policy.
But if you continue to exceed it for that period of time, I've run into the same thing.
And they have a right to inspect my logbook.
I don't think we want to get into
No, no,
insurance.
No.
No, I just was.
But I think we want to adjourn this.
Well, I'm trying to make the opportunity to do that.
But just one more small issue, and that is on the numbering aspect. If you pick anything before section 19,
Mhm.
then you have to renumber everything that comes after it if you have it a separate section. And then when you renumber it, that means if there's a reference to it, to something in that section somewhere else, you're gonna have to change that.
Right.
So I looked through, spent a little time, and I figured that if we added this as another section under, a subsection under section 4, which is districts and district regulations, because what we're saying, you know, where you have rural residential district, you have all of the uses permitted. Well, we're now permitting another use. So having this section on short-term rentals in that same area of the zoning ordinance, I think would be beneficial. So I'm recommending that we have this not as 16.1, but have it as 4.4 and take it from there.
Because that's
And
what,
that means, and that doesn't affect anything else in the ordinance.
That would be good.
Those were numbers.
yes, there was, the Julies were talking
Yeah.
about it.
All right. So can we agree to that? Do we need to do a vote on that, or?
Well, we can do that on Monday. or
We can do that,
Tuesday.
we can do that on Tuesday, but
Sure.
the
I was just
drafting should then be in that mode.
Using those numbers instead of 16, because 16
Yeah,
already exists.
okay. So noted.
And then also add, make sure the rooms and meals tax
Yes,
is in there.
yeah, that didn't show on this guy
Peter
here.
looked it up.
And that's because this print is still, it was not the latest version.
That was a good pickup.
Which one did you?
The latest version, yes, included one line that said you have to do the tax number. Yeah. So, I mean, we were running this up to, what, 5 o'clock this afternoon? So, yeah, good luck on it. Which is why I'd like to get a vote. Can we schedule a meeting, agree to schedule a meeting then on Tuesday?
Where is it going to be held? Can't be held here because the selectmen are here.
At 7 o'clock, their meeting?
They're starting at,
They have a Board of Selectmen budget hearing, ordinance hearing, and the budget, and then, but that ends like before 6.
But the Whitney Center,
And it's at the Whitney Center?
No, it's here, but they end like at 6.
They end at 6, so if we have our normal 7 o'clock, we should be in
I think we
reasonably
did.
good shape unless
Yeah.
they go over.
Right.
And they'd have to go over a full hour. Does that work for everyone?
7 o'clock Tuesday.
So we'll,
You might want to double check with
you're not gonna be
Julie.
available, okay.
I'll be fine.
Huntley, you'll be able to vote?
wow. I can get in trouble.
You could get in trouble, you'll be on record as being caught in trouble.
Won't be the first.
I may. So, I think my land in Portland at 5:45.
Okay. Well,
If I drive quickly, I could be here.
We'll get you
December.
an escort.
You may.
We'll be enough for a quorum, and here's the deal. Between now and then, anything that you look at and you think that we should be looking at between now and then,
Are you talking to me?
yes. Let's just surface it before the meeting, and then we can have all those things available to us.
And if we can,
And if there's something we
get an
can,
email before the meeting with what we hope is the final.
yeah. What an idea.
Depends how many
Yeah.
changes come through.
Now I saw it, it's
So what-
5:10.
What date are we looking at, right?
Tuesday at 7 PM.
Tuesday,
Next
7 p.m.
Consider by putting it, there were no other
This coming Tuesday.
parts here that were affected.
Yes.
But,
Being 4.4.
right.
All right, any other? I hear a motion to,
Second.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
Scott motioned.